Hi, everybody. It's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun. I'm here in Victoria, British Columbia, and we're doing a cross-country market update with top RE/MAX agents across Canada, as well as Tricia Lehane from Arizona. So she's going to be talking about the impact of real estate down there for Canadians who are buying out of the country. So let's have everyone, first of all, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and the area that you represent, please.
I'm Ken McClelland, and I live in Kamloops BC and work in the Kamloops and surrounding area, which includes Barrier, right down to Merritt, west to Cache Creek, east to Chase, Sorrento, the Shuswap Lakes area, and been in the business for about, well, it'll be 32 years this spring.
Okay, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura June. I'm from RE/MAX Little Oak in Surrey, British Columbia. I service the Lower Mainland, which includes Surrey, South Surrey, White Rock, Cloverdale, and I live in Langley.
Okay, Andy.
I'm Andy Fielding. I'm with RE/MAX Twin City in Waterloo, Ontario. Kitchener-Waterloo, former home of BlackBerry or RIM, depends on how old you are and how experienced you are with technology. Service the Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph, those areas mainly.
Okay, Stephen.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephen Lau. I'm with RE/MAX Real Estate in Edmonton, Alberta. I serve anything within 1 hour driving time. Otherwise, I'll refer my business out. My background, I'm a lawyer by background. I changed into real estate about 12 years ago, and I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Okay, and last one, Tricia.
Good morning. I'm Tricia Lehane. I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona from Kelowna, British Columbia, not too far from you, Ken.
Yeah.
It was 13 years this past October, and I've been a realtor full-time for 12 years, came over to the RE/MAX family just over 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you could make it today. I think this is a great service that we're providing both our clients and people potentially moving across the country. First of all, let's talk about how the market did. We're at the beginning of 2019 now. How was 2018 in your market, like in terms of total listings from compared to 2017? So what's the verdict? How about you go first, Ken?
Okay, well, I did a little research. Our sales in the Kamloops market were down 11% on the year overall from 2017, but 2017 was a record year, so it's maybe not the best year to measure from, but we were down a little from last year. The sales maintained pretty good up until September, but in the fourth quarter they dropped some. October was off 21.3% from the previous year. November was okay, down 5% from the previous year, but December was down 33% from the previous year. So that was a substantial drop. Having said all of that, our median price went up last year from $435,500 to $461,000.
Okay.
And at the end of the year, one of the reasons I think that we're down in sales and maybe prices are up a little bit is shortage of inventory. We had 1,425 listings active at the end of 2017. We have 1,285 active at the end of 18. So that's a bit of a drop too. That's down about 10% in listing numbers. So, and we're seeing the effect of mortgage stress testing and interest rate creep here, I think, just as probably everybody else is as well. But that's kind of the overview of the Kamloops market. So down some, we're still holding pretty strong. We just heard from the city yesterday that we had a record construction year. We had something like $270 million in permit values last year, which for a city of 90,000 is substantial. And single family was down somewhat last year, but multifamily is up as far as permit values go. So that's kind of a snapshot of the Kamloops market.
Okay, how about you, Andy?
It's really kind of interesting hearing Ken's numbers. Ours are really similar here in Ontario, or in my section of Ontario. Let's see here. Units sold in 2018, we had 5,238, down from 5,859 in 2017. So that was interesting to actually see on paper. You know, being in the business, you don't always look at the, we don't slow down and look at the numbers until, the end of the year. But interestingly, our prices are up. In 2017, the average price, and just in Kitchener-Waterloo, was $457, $451 in 2017, and then 2018 they went up to $473 And I agree with Ken. 2017 here was absolutely bonkers. People were getting, you know, crazy amounts over asking price, and we were asking we weren't underpricing properties and then saying, oh, we got X amount over. No, we were pricing them where they should have been, and then they were getting $115,000, $200,000 over asking price in some cases, and higher. Like it was kind of like the Wild West for a while, and that caused a bit of a problem in 2018 because people were still expecting those numbers, and we had an inventory shortage. But the prices still, you know, our prices still went up. In December 2017, we sold 273 homes, and in December 2018, we sold 240, and then 415,000 and 475 again in pricing difference. November was fantastic here, one of the best Novembers we've ever had, and then December really kind of, you know, the brakes kind of were hit a little bit, and that's normal here, right?
Do you think that was also interest rates maybe having an impact, people wanting to get in before the interest rates went up?
Yeah, the stress test, like Ken said, the stress tests out here, the interest rates, you know, we are so close to Toronto that when Toronto takes a bit of a bump, it ripples out and kind of kicks us. But yeah, the interest rates and the stress test, and Kitchener-Waterloo is a pretty unique area. So, you know, Waterloo's a little more white collar, I say, and Kitchener's more blue collar. We have a lot of technology companies in Waterloo. So it's, you know, some people ask me on the street and it's like, I just kind of scratch my head and, you know, I don't know what to tell them all the time.
The Edmonton market is stagnant. We have very high levels of inventory for both residential detached single homes and for the condominium market. The parts of the city that are particularly vulnerable are the outskirts, where you have the typical builder inventory and cookie cutter homes. The big trends in Edmonton are infill. So mature neighborhoods close to the city core that can be subdivisible, and a lot of skinny homes are being built. Condo prices are down substantially, about 5%, and residential detached single homes are down about 1%. The actual volume of sales for condos have been extremely bad. It's been about 30% down compared to a year ago. So that's a huge drop in sales volume. And I see that as a consequence of the mortgage stress test rules, where the particular vulnerable or the new home buyers who are priced out of the market because of qualification not meeting the price points.
Okay. All right, Laura.
Well, you know, the volatile is how I would describe 2018 in Surrey, British Columbia. And interestingly enough, when I looked at the stats last year, year over year, we're up over December of last year, even though prices shot up and down. And don't believe everything you're reading in the news right now about everything tanking. Last year at this time, the average house price in Surrey was $966,000, and today it's $985,000. So actually we're up. It really is, it's becoming a very neighborhood specific market. So it's really important to know your specific, not just city, but to know your actual neighborhood. Certain neighborhoods are doing very well. Other neighborhoods, it's crazy. They are tanking out, and some in Vancouver are. I think, you know, stress tests and all of that does impact on all of this, but we also see regulation, whether it's our local governments or provincial government. Certain taxes that they're implementing have really impacted on different markets. They're disrupting right now. But it means it's a great opportunity for some buyers. They're, you know, some prices are down, different markets are up, so you really have to know. Right now, things are up in Surrey. In Langley, they're slightly down. So, although thousands of people are moving into the Surrey-Langley Township area every month, right now, prices is probably a really good time to buy.
Right, I agree.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
In Victoria, our listings are up 43.6%. So they went from 1384 last year in December to 1988 this year. They're actually 15.2% down from November, which is seasonally normal. Our sales for 2017, total sales were 8,994, and this year they were 7,150. So we're down substantially from last year. I think it's 18%.
Yeah.
And in terms of, oh, sorry, that's 20%. Benchmark pricing, our benchmark pricing is also up here in Victoria. So in December 2018, it was $858 compared to $832 last year in December 2017. But it's down from November, so it was $865 in November of 2018. And I think the reason is that even though our inventory is a little bit higher than it is last year compared to last year, it's up overall compared to where it was 5 years ago when the market was very, very slow. So we're still at about 50% inventory compared to our slowest market. So I think we'll see the prices maintaining, and hopefully now there'll be a bit of a slowing on the interest rate hikes so that things will just settle down. And I consider it to be a buyer's market here. So great opportunity for anybody who's wanting to get out there and actually shop. And also sellers now have some time to maybe do a subject to sale offer, so they actually find a house that they like compared to a few years ago when they were just buying whatever they could find. So I always tell people buyers are trying to anticipate where the market's going. So before they used to bid over asking, and now they're bidding under because they're anticipating the market will go down. So I find that helpful when I'm listing a price to explain that to people. Okay, how about you, Tricia?
So I moved here to Arizona from Kelowna. I was born and raised in Southeast Colorado, moved to Canada, lived there 30 plus years, and was in corporate Canada. And then I had my own business in Kelowna where I did event management and fundraising. So I moved here. My late husband was the broker of an independent firm, I guess a pretty large firm. They have about 2,800 realtors. And I sold my first $1 million property to a man from Vancouver, and that was in 2008. And he told me I should be doing workshops in Canada. So I brand myself as the Arizona Canadian Connection and specialize in working with Canadians. So starting in 2008, I started doing workshops and I've done them in every Western Canadian city. So there's over 25,000 homeowners in the greater Phoenix, Scottsdale area. My MLS covers 12,000 plus square miles, and I've sold pretty well right throughout the valley. People do love coming here for the Arizona sunshine, obviously, but it's been cold for us. Like it got below freezing the last couple of nights. So they love the golf, the tennis, everything that the valley offers. I want to sort of again iterate how important it is to have somebody that knows what they're doing and has the resources to work with a Canadian, because it's a lot different than just selling somebody a home down the street. So as you can see, and I have the breakdown per province and even by community. So if any of you have interest in co-marketing with me to people from Victoria, from Kitchener, Waterloo, I have a list of homeowners in the area. As you can see, our pricing is quite attractive. The average medium home of a property in the Phoenix area is $273,000. Scottsdale, just under $500. We don't need to go into the personal leisure purchase, but so that shows my MLS. We do have an amazing freeway system here. And then I did just put in a couple of properties to give you an idea. Right here in the heart of Scottsdale, you get a great townhome for $260,000. And the HOA fees in that community are $276. A single family home in a beautiful community out in Mesa, just under 600. And here's a beautiful property in Paradise Valley, just under 1.6 million. So if you know of anybody, and I'm sure everybody probably does know somebody that owns a property here in the greater Phoenix, Scottsdale area, take advantage and send me a referral. I take very good care of my clients. I just closed on a property with a gentleman from Kelowna yesterday.
Okay, good, cool. Well, I'm looking at the prices and I'm thinking it's cheap.
It is. It absolutely is.
Okay, so you guys, what are your predictions for this coming year for your markets? Why don't we start with you, Stephen? You've been saying now it's kind of...
Yeah, Mr. Doom and Gloom a little bit. Until you guys in BC and Ontario approve our pipelines and maybe support a pro-pipeline politician, we won't take sides right now, but you know who they are and not. Our outlook continues to be stagnant.
Okay. Andy, East Coaster.
Up in the spring. As you know, we have a federal election coming in the autumn. So I think a lot of people are holding their hands down.
Okay. Ken?
Probably stability. I don't know that we'll see much growth, but I don't see that we'll tank either because, you know, as Andy was saying, Kitchener-Waterloo is fairly close to Toronto. We're pretty close to Vancouver, and we're still seeing significant migration from the Vancouver area to Kamloops because we're only 3 hours drive away, and it's a pretty easy 3 hours drive, and folks can come here and have a whole different lifestyle. You can buy a brand new, nice single family home here for $700,000 where you can't even talk about that in the Lower Mainland. So that's attractive to a lot of people.
Can buy one here in Victoria too.
Yeah.
And actually people commute from here to Vancouver. Isn't that crazy?
Well, yeah, you know, and I had a couple of customers that moved over to Qualicum Beach last year, a couple of years ago from here, and they had trouble getting a place because they were being outbid by West Vancouver folks that had sold a, you know, $2 to $3 million property kind of a thing. And we're still working, but bought a weekly pass for the float plane that would drop them in the Vancouver Harbor, and they would just commute 3-4 days a week from Qualicum to downtown Vancouver on the float plane.
We call those havers.
Yeah.
Because they come to Victoria and it's half the price of Vancouver.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, Laura.
Same. You know what? Being in the Fraser Valley, not actually in Vancouver, and really 45 minutes, I can be right downtown with prices being what they are. I don't anticipate our prices really dropping. There was a bit of a softening from last spring till now, and sales have gone down. Inventory is way down. Prices are still climbing a little bit. They're definitely holding their own. I predict that they will definitely hold their own. I don't think they're going to spike like they did last year. I think the regulations and all these things that we're talking about now will kind of keep things quiet and calmer, which is great for buying and selling.
Andy, go ahead. Go ahead.
I really see our market staying strong. Toronto, they're calling for another boom. If that happens, then like I said before, it's going to ripple out and we're going to go crazy again. We just need, like, our inventory is still low right now. So I can really see our market staying where it is, and still prices are still climbing because of what neighbors are getting and what, you know, people are realizing their families are bigger than they were before and they have to move. So I still see a pretty strong market for sellers. Buyers, that's going to be a little tougher.
Okay, I have a professional question for you guys. What do you do when somebody says that their property value assessment came in? How do you explain that to them?
Well, yesterday I actually I received 2 text messages from clients who got their assessments, and their assessments were up over last year. So again, don't believe everything you're seeing in the news that everything here is dropping. I have 2 people messaging. They're all happy. Thank you very much, Laura. Prices are up again.
Yeah. So it's not related to market value, tax value.
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just trying to explain it's a look at the past. It's kind of the caboose on the train. So if the market's going up, it's going to be lower. And when the market goes down, it's going to be higher. So I tell people to anticipate seeing in listings price below market value assessment.
Yeah,
I agree.
And then, okay, another question, last question, I guess. Quickly, what do you guys think about Airbnbs in your market? Do they affect your markets?
I know in ours it's a big thing. They a lot of stratas are outlawing it, period. People aren't wanting to see the Airbnb movement, and the taxation rates in cities in Vancouver certainly are making it prohibitive for a lot of people. So there's a lot of implications, and it's not just it's not just in the time that you're running the business, but you have to think after. If you try to sell the house after, there's actual implications. People, yeah, exactly. People are not aware of what they may be getting into on the B&B thing. And I think before, where there was a lot of excitement, I'm sensing less excitement.
Yeah. Ken?
Yeah, well, I just finished doing some of these new rules courses and whatnot over the past few months, and a lot of them addressed the Vancouver situation of short-term rentals and vacant properties and stuff like that. And there are going to be some significant tax implications, I think, in that market. Airbnb, I don't think is a significant factor in the Kamloops area, but I suppose it could come. I live in a 200-lot bare land strata community, and we do have a bylaw prohibiting Airbnb, short-term rentals, and that's the way folks want it. As far as the first question you had with regards to assessed values, I talk to people about that too. And one of the first questions, people say, oh, my assessment went up, they're going to want more taxes from me. Well, maybe they might adjust the mill rate. But secondly, if somebody came along with a check for that amount of money and said you'd give it to you if you moved out of your house in 30 days, would you take it? And usually the answer is no, because usually the assessments are a little under market value. So that's one thing. And the other thing I tell them too is that you need to remember that assessment is already 6 months out of date because it was as of July 1st last year.
Okay. Andy?
We don't, in the 10 years I've been in the business, I don't think I've had anybody talk Airbnb. I did have a B&B to sell a few years ago, and it was a headache. Again, because of the tax implications. The current owners usually know them, and that's part of the reason why they're trying to get out of them. And you've got new people coming in there that don't really have a clue what they're getting themselves into. We're more student housing here. We have two big world-class universities and some colleges, so housing's more of an issue in Waterloo than Airbnbs, in my opinion. Now, again, I just don't have a lot of experience with them here. So.
Okay, Stephen.
In Edmonton, I don't feel that Airbnb is a big a factor as it is in the Vancouver market because the economy is not the greatest and vacancies are quite high. So that being the case, I believe most owners, if they have to rent out their place, would rather rent to a longer term tenant. Whereas in the Vancouver market, people are getting pretty good daily rents, especially if you're closer to the downtown core, and people are getting more money that way. Regards to your assessment issue, I tend to agree that it's more neighborhood specific, and I'm hoping to take a listing that's listed for $2.2 million and telling them that no one's going to pay even $1.7 million for your house because the style is wrong. The style of this house is a Chinese owner. It might sell well in Vancouver, but in Edmonton and the up and coming buyer who has more contemporary taste may not like that house. So people are really buying for design, for style, if it's in the right neighborhood, but because they can just walk down the street, knock on a door, and consider buying a house for $600,000, knocking it down and building a $1 million house over and above the lot value, that's a better option for some people. So I think design is really key in our industry, and you have to do everything you can to make it stylish and competitive to appeal to that next generation buyer. And we're seeing a lot of older people selling their big houses, and they're going to have to do a big haircut because their houses are not appealing to the younger generations.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hey, Tricia, do you guys have any issues with Airbnbs?
Well, of course, in our whole area evolves around Airbnbs because in January, February, March, for a property in Scottsdale, you can rent it probably 3,500 a month, 1,400 square foot. It hasn't become an issue, and a lot of Canadian investors, that's the direction they're taking, is to invest in properties that allow Airbnb. So
I think though, where I found, I think the issue is actually worldwide, because I see what's happening is people are taking what are generally single family dwellings and turning them into short-term rentals. And so now there's a bit of a backlash because they've eaten up kind of the spare inventory, I think. And so
well, I think the hotel sorry, Jane.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I think the hotel industry too wants to see more guidelines in place, because I mean they're mowing the hotel industry's grass, especially if they're not registered and they're not paying their taxes and stuff like that. I mean, it's not a level playing field. Yeah,
I agree. And especially in Victoria, which is, we have a number of different industries, tourism, which is a big one. So
yeah.
I didn't do a prediction for Victoria market. I think it's going to be fairly level, actually. Yeah. We are a very easy real estate industry market to work in, just because we have government here and colleges and universities, and of course the prison industry.
What are you seeing as far as what's happening in the market because of the taxes that they've added in Victoria, Vancouver, Kelowna?
Oh, well, we're seeing a pressure on multiple levels for prices to come down, but I think we're seeing also a bit of a realism that the only way they're going to add lower cost housing is to actually add it themselves. It's not going to happen. They can't force people to sell their houses for less money, and to ask that of people is ridiculous. So
yeah, well, some of the things we hear anecdotally in the interior about stuff that's happening in Vancouver, like you read about a person being charged the empty homes tax on a vacant lot that they own beside, they've got a double-sized lot, and they're being charged this empty homes tax because you're supposed to develop a lot. Well, I don't have the money to develop a lot, and I don't feel like selling it. So that's an issue. You got an issue with older people maybe living in nice neighborhoods who have a very expensive home, but they don't have the income to pay this extra school tax that's being charged in the Vancouver area, just because they have an assessed value over $3 million. And so those are issues where you say, well, are you going to force these people to sell their house just because they have a nice house, or are you going to give them a break? And those are real things.
They are.
Yeah, and I find here too, there's not a, like I had a buyer who moved here from Britain, and they applied for a job. They were the only qualified person. They went through all the tests and everything. And because they didn't have permanent residency on a $700,000 house, it cost them an extra $140,000. So the federal government holds that tax for a year. They have a year, or the provincial government holds the tax. They have to apply for a permanent residency through the federal government. And what happens is, because they're not coordinated, I don't know, I figure he has a 50-50 chance of getting that money back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good
well, when these new tax measures were implemented in last year's budget, one of the stated intents was to have the price of houses come down, and it's working.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also working because the federal government's raising interest rates.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're certainly not going up right now, and that's, at least working. Perhaps if these weren't put in place, prices would still be on the climb here, but because of that, that's why I just see things remaining level.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching our show. This is Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, host of the Cross Country Market Update for our top-selling RE/MAX agents across the country. If you want to join us, we're going to be doing a quarterly update, and be sure to watch our page at Briar Hill Group. We will also be sending this information out to all the other realtors who are a part of the group, so that they can participate and you can find out what's going on in their market. So take care, everybody. Have a great year, and see you later. Bye.
Thanks, Jane. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.